But we are talking about Batgirl Year 1. Sorry to cut you off there, Noah.
Yeah, no problem.
This is by Chuck Dixon, who wrote a whole trilogy of these, which we will cover at some point. I'm just debating where to cover some of them, and I need to see if there's anything else you need to read for those. Whereas this is a pretty self-contained story, so I kind of assume those will be as well. The only one that might not be is Nightwing, because that's less of an origin and more of like, this is how he became a new person, or a new identity.
For that, I would assume you would at least have to read Robin Year 1 first.
Yeah. Anime fan asks, is Batgirl Year 1 the equivalent of Batman Year 1? Kind of.
Basically.
This is more of an origin than Year 1 is.
Yeah, because, well, and we'll review Year 1 when we get to it, but the Batman, it definitely goes over Batman's origin, but you don't really get into his head as much, and it does feel more like a Jim Gordon story. But this one, you're kind of following Barbara for most of it. So
we'll get into it over the course of the review, but I do just want to say up front, I have mixed feelings about this book.
Okay.
I don't know how you felt about it. Is this your first time reading it?
Yeah, this is my first time.
Okay. This is my second time reading it, and I liked it slightly more on a reread, so I wonder if it gets better with each read. I think it's too long at some points too.
Yeah, I think I might be with you there. I'd say overall, I really like it, and I think it's really solid, but it's probably the weakest out of what we've reviewed so far. Well, I think that's just kind of what's going to happen, because the first three things we reviewed were like
masterpiece
classics. Yeah. Well, two classics and in Ego, which is gaining a little bit more respect now. But yet, like, three of my all-time favorites. And then I had never read this before, and it's a solid story, like I said, but there's nothing really in there to like grab me. There's nothing like thematic that's interesting I can latch on to. But I do like seeing, Barbara's journey from regular person to vigilante, and we can talk about like the little details of that in a second. But yeah, I think it's a really good origin, and it does a really good job of like showing her development.
Yeah, we'll get into some of that as we go, and then there's some migrant. But I want to focus on what you said with it doesn't have like a thematic underline. I think it starts with one, because for the first like couple of pages she won't stop talking about masks.
Yeah,
and I think there's supposed to be there's the Oracle thing, which I thought was a little too on the nose.
Yeah, maybe.
And there's a few places in this where I'm like, really, that's what we're doing. But if I feel like he gives up on that halfway through the book, and it's like, well, we're not really talking about like the masks that we wear anymore, or like the duality of being a vigilante. Instead, it just turns into like, who said they can do this, but I can't? Which
it's kind of like touched upon, but it's not really explored in the way like stuff in Killing Joke was. Which, I mean, it's maybe unfair to compare this to Killing Joke, but we'll try to look at this as its own thing.
I think it's fair to compare it in the fact that I think there's at least three different things that this book is trying to be about thematically, but it gives up on each one of them about halfway through. And it's just like, we got to move on to the next plot point. I'd be really curious to see where this ranks amongst Batman comic book readers.
Yeah, and I don't think this is a bad story at all. Like I said before, it's really well done, and it's a solid story.
It's a solid enough origin, yeah.
I think a lot of what I latched onto, even though it didn't blow me away, I thought a lot of what works about this story is just seeing her origin, and especially early on, you kind of get to see how she's like in the first three issues. She's like underestimated by everyone, because she's a girl, and she has to she always has that feeling of like that she has to prove herself. And I think that stuff is well done, but it maybe goes on for a bit too long. And I think I'm with you that this probably shouldn't have been like 9 issues. Maybe it should have been a little shorter.
This could have been a 6-issue mini.
I
Anime
thought that this
fan,
was 6 issues before I started reading it. So
anime fan. I wonder if the unreleased Batgirl film was like Batgirl Year 1. I think they had to have been pulling from stuff because we know that
I think they were.
Firefly was in it.
Yeah.
And wasn't Killer Moth as well, or am I misremembering?
I think Killer Moth was supposed to be in it, but I don't know if he was going to have as big of a role as he does in this story. Which, by
Both
the
of
way,
them
this
are
is
the big villains of this book.
yeah, and we can get to them later. But I love both of them. I think they're great.
I really liked Firefly. I was kind of over Killer Moth about halfway through the book.
All right, fair enough. But I think an interesting kind of thing with Barbara, like I was saying before, she has the need to feel like she has to prove herself. And even though she's Batgirl, one interesting detail I thought was cool is that she's not really inspired by Batman. She just wants to do her own thing. And even more so, she's looking up to Black Canary, who she teams up with later in the book.
No, I liked that she's more inspired by Canary, and that's one thing I think that comics have as an advantage over like a film is you can take those other parts of the universe and have them inspire other parts. Whereas like in the movie, of course, if this is all assumption, of course, we don't know anything about that movie, but I guarantee you in that movie, it's she was inspired by Batman.
By Batman, yeah,
which is less interesting.
It is way less interesting, and they'd have to like take the time to establish Black Canary in a movie, and I think it would be, more
That's
efficient
what you
if
think.
they just. It would be more efficient if they just stuck to Batman, but I don't know if it necessarily would have worked as well.
No, and there's that whole sequence of her breaking into the JSA, which is great. I think my only problem with her not being at all inspired by Batman is okay. We'll talk about this and then we'll jump back because I took like a whole list of notes.
Oh wow!
While reading,
I only had a few, so I'm glad that you have more.
So she basically makes this costume to piss off Jim Gordon.
Yeah.
But then she gets mad that Batman doesn't want her to wear it. And I'm like, and this is, I think, where the biggest hole in this book is for me. Because I've always seen Batman as someone who does not accept people wearing his symbol except for the people that he chooses. I don't buy that he would have I don't know if I even buy that he would have given her the chance. She's not someone he took in because he sees himself in her. She's just some kid that he found on the street dressing up like him.
I buy it because he sees her, what she does at like that costume ball, and he sees that there is a hero in her. So I buy that he gives her a chance.
Okay.
I don't know. It worked for me.
That's fair.
I kind of get both sides because obviously Batman's like, I don't know you. Like, why are you wearing my symbol and stuff like that? And then Batgirl's like, well, I don't know why. It's not. You don't have like a right to it. Like, why are you wearing it? So.
And maybe that's my bias coming out, but I'm like, yeah, but I mean, that's his symbol. Like, you're stealing it from him, and then you're gonna say that he doesn't own it. Come on now.
But he doesn't have a copyright on it.
That you know of.
That I know of, yeah.
That would be that would be a hilarious like subversion where he just sues her for the bat symbol.
Yeah.
What if that's what this book was about?
That'd
What's up, Robert? Happy Alien Day.
A goofier something with a goofier tone. Oh yeah, it's Alien Day. Forgot about that.
Yeah, so we might
really missed the timing on that one.
Well, probably what we'll do is because Robert wanted to play some Alien Isolation after we discuss this book. So maybe because we always chill in voice chat afterwards, I'll just boot up some Alien.
Yeah.
Sure. Spooky games. Anyway, Batman should copyright bats. Like how Joker tried to copyright fish. I never heard of that.
That's the That's the laughing fish.
I haven't read that yet.
Yeah, when they do
I
that
know,
in the
I'm a
animated
fraud.
series as well.
So the kind of the crux of the story is that she wants to be a cop, and her and her dad are always are arguing because she wants to be a cop, and it kind of plays like this is a discussion they've had quite a few times, which I thought was interesting. Um, Gordon is weird in this book because there are times where I feel like it's the Gordon that I have in my head. Like I fully buy any Commissioner Gordon would not want his daughter to be a cop, especially in Gotham.
Right.
But he's also too distrustful of Batman this far into Batman's career.
Yeah, that was a problem I had. It was very strange because he's acting like Gordon in year one, or like I don't know, even like Origins Gordon, where he's distrusting of Batman. And
Yeah,
this is, I don't know, how many years into Batman's career is this?
it
Like,
has to be a while if we're already at Robin going into Batgirl.
yeah, and we're already we're
And
in
he's got a
Batgirl,
full rogues gallery.
right? So at this point, and they have the bat signal too. At this point, I'm not sure what his problem with Batman is if he's still working with
Well,
him.
it seems like the hangup is the vigilantism in Robin. And I get
Yeah.
I get the Robin thing because Robin is young, but at the same time, Dick because Dick has to be at least the same age as Barbara or older. Like it's not really fair if you to judge him for bringing Robin in when Robin is already an adult.
Well, it's strange because to me, Robin looks a little bit younger than her in this, and she even calls him kid, but obviously not too much younger because they do that stuff later.
Whoa! They don't do that kind of stuff.
No. I mean, there's a romance.
It's not that kind of it's not that kind of book.
No,
Robert Wilde, I get why Batman would be hesitant to bring in other vigilantes inspired by him. He obviously wants to avoid a Dark Knight situation. Yeah, like I don't see him just accepting a random girl because she's got like a fire in her eyes. Robin does come in pretty early. MOC's been Batman for 5 years, but I get what she says. Yeah, but I don't. But the problem is that this book never establishes a timeline.
But it feels like Robin has been around for a while at this point.
Yeah, and
I don't know. Maybe
because they don't establish a timeline.
Yeah, that's a big problem. Like, yeah, that's what I thought. Dick was a little younger than Barbara in this.
Is this a Robin that's on the verge of becoming Nightwing? Like I don't know what the timeline is.
It doesn't seem that way to me because he looks young in this.
I would say, but yeah, he's got to be late teens because Barbara's is already graduated and working.
All right, well, yeah, she's in college now, so he's probably late teens. It's weird though because he's drawn to look younger, so yeah, I'm probably just hung up on that.
You bastard.
But no, I'm with you on that. Like, they don't give you a good sense of the timeline here. And that was a really strange thing. And I understand Gordon having an issue with Batman recruiting kids, like, on his mission. Like, that is a valid problem to have, but it's kind of seems like it's taken so far as, like, he's like, we're not allowed to mention Batman in the house, I think he says at one point.
Yeah, and I don't buy any Gordon doing that.
Yeah, it's very strange to me. But other than that, I think he's characterized pretty well, pretty on point.
Yeah, so we have a Barbara who kind of sees herself heading for a mundane life because her dad won't let her do anything. She's too short for FBI field work. And I like that he set that up because there is an aspect of her I think that is an adrenaline junkie, which is consistent I think with any Bat family member, especially like Batman. You have to have that need for the adrenaline. Like a desk job isn't good enough for her. Mm-hmm. Let's see, and then the JSA rejects her, and we get another cameo. What is that guy's name?
Wildcat.
That's what I thought, but I was like, is that right? We get Wildcat coming in, which I thought was cool. He's a character that I like in idea, but he's never been in anything that I've read. All I know is that he
Yeah.
trained Black Canary.
My only real exposure to him is like animated stuff. I haven't read any JSA.
Me neither. Um, and then so we kind of get that like, well, my first idea failed. Maybe I should just give up. And I liked that as a human response. Um, because especially once she becomes Batgirl, we'll talk about how they get the name because
Yeah. Yeah.
um she's gonna be thrown into some really like inhuman situations, and I think she kind of adapts a little too quickly. But maybe that's also just a factor of living in Gotham, which, if I'm to be believed by some of the Batman stuff later in the book, he's got a full rogues gallery, so like Gotham has seen it all.
Yeah. No, yeah. It seems like he's pretty much met everyone at this point for his rogues gallery.
Yeah.
Um,
There was something. Go ahead.
Anime says there's an issue where Joker has Batman and Wildcat battle each other.
Okay. I'd read it.
Yeah,
Dick's
probably
supposed
have
to be
to
pretty
read
young
that.
in Robin Year One. Robert, are these all connected, or are they just kind of one off? Like this is kind of the default origin.
I think they're connected in that obviously they're all written and
By
drawn
the
by the
same
same
guy.
people. Yeah.
Uh, Robert says, "Fun fact: the $1 Million Masquerade in the opening reference in the opening, the reference to Barbara's first appearance in comics, which is titled the $1 Million Debut of Batgirl." You know, he's got a lot of fun facts for somebody who couldn't show up.
Robert, what the hell, man? No, I understand. You're busy.
So all of this leads to the masquerade ball that Robert is talking about, and I'm just messing with you, Robert. Where she creates this suit, this bat suit, to make
Just
her
to piss
father
off her
angry.
dad.
And I
Yeah.
feel like that, now that I'm talking about it, I wonder if that's why we set up that whole thing. Because her making a bat suit to piss her dad off doesn't make any sense unless you write him to still be distrustful of Batman.
Yeah, and I still don't know how I feel about that because I don't really like that he's distrustful of Batman
No,
in the
I
first
don't like
place.
it.
Yeah, and I don't mind the idea of Gordon and Barbara having a contentious relationship because they're father and daughter after all. They got to fight about something. It seemed really forced to me.
A lot of the
Um,
stuff with her actually becoming Batgirl feels really forced.
yeah, yeah, and I think part of the problem is, and we'll get to it later, that like she doesn't get along enough with Batman and Robin at first for me to believe that she wants to like adopt the name Batgirl. And it's a name that was given to her.
Well, we'll get there with the Batgirl stuff because I have all of the questions.
Yeah.
So
We're almost there.
Killer Moth breaks into this ball. Bruce is like stuck in the party, so like he can't switch costumes. So Batgirl, wearing her Halloween costume, attacks. They fight, and Killer Moth gets away.
Yep.
This is at least canon with Robin Year One, though it's honestly up in there if this is canon post. Nobody knows what's going on post New 52.
Yeah, I wondered about that as I was reading this. Like, is this the canon origin or not? But I kind of just enjoyed it as its own thing mostly.
But see, it's also canon that she got healed from being paralyzed. So who knows?
But yeah, then she chases Killer Moth into like the woods, and then meets up with Batman and Robin, and that's where they have their argument about her using the insignia. Which, like I said earlier, I kind of see both sides of that argument.
Robert says that he thinks this was considered the post-crisis origin for Batgirl at the time. But this is 03. Post-crisis is the 80s. Unless you're telling me they took 30 years to get her origin story out. Because, like, John Byrne's Man of Steel is post-crisis.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, they do a Batgirl series post-Crisis, and I'm not sure if they cover her origin in that. So I'm not sure.
The only
Maybe
solo
it still
Batgirl I've
counts.
read besides this was that Gail Simone New 52 run, which was
Which I
wonderful.
still, yeah, I've heard great things about, and I still need to get around to that.
Um, so my
But here's
biggest
where we
question
get. Yeah,
before
go
we
ahead.
get to what you were going to mention. Okay.
Yeah.
So she makes this bat costume, and she makes it clear she has no indication of fighting crime in this costume before Killer Moth shows up. How is this going to make Gordon angry? You
I
made a
really think
glorified Halloween costume.
I really think it's just because he's mad at Batman at the time, and he's distrusting of Batman. Yeah, it's really forced, as we mentioned earlier.
And then remind me, it's right after the mansion when she's chasing after him that we finally get the name, right?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's Killer Moth calls her Batgirl from the helicopter as he's like escaping.
Yeah,
And then she's
she
like,
just.
"Oh, I'm stuck with it."
But why? Two people heard you
Yeah.
called that.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of witnesses. You're in the middle of the woods. It's not like there's a whole crowd watching this battle.
It's really
You
distracting because we know she has to be called Batgirl, and
Mhm.
then because she mentions I'd like to be called Batwoman, and it's like wah wah wah, that's already taken. No,
Yeah.
it's prequelitis to the worst degree.
And like I was saying earlier, I don't buy. I mean, I'm fine with Batman, her having like a contentious relationship with Batman and Robin at first, because obviously she's not inspired by them and she wants to do her own thing, and she rejects the name Batgirl. I don't know. They just don't do enough for me to like get to the place where I buy that she is okay with working with these people now, and she's fine being part of the Bat family. Um, I get that she's coming into her own and being her own hero, but I don't really get the sense that like he still wants to work with Bruce and Dick.
Yeah. And then just based on my notes, because I kind of take these in order, we shift to Alfred's POV.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you had this, but reading this on my phone, like all tableted out, the Alfred font was really fucking hard to read.
I don't even remember it. It
Did
was.
you
I
read
think it
the
was just.
book?
I think it was just cursive, right?
Yeah. No, wait. The Alfred POV change has to be before then because this book is non-linear. It's when it shows
Well,
Robin, it
is it?
shows Dick seeing the
Yeah.
chaos on TV and he goes to costume up. And I'm like, did you need that? Just have Robin show up at the party.
Maybe not. That's something you could easily cut out. Um, but it didn't bother me. Uh, it does go back to the issue of this story being too long, though.
You know what else I could cut out? That whole bit with Moth trying to sell himself as protection racket to other mobsters,
Oh, see, I like that stuff.
and the moth symbol or signal.
Yeah, the moth signal, I think, is a thing from an earlier comic too. So that's something they brought back. Like he's
Oh, okay.
essentially supposed to be like the villain version of Batman,
That's
where he's
Man
got like
Bat.
this that like he's got a bunch of gadgets and then like a signal and stuff. Um, but I don't know. I think Killer Moth is really fun in this book. I like that he's just kind of a pathetic loser.
Like me.
And like me, and there's some like interesting parallels going on with him, and then we'll get to Firefly later, um, and like how they're an interesting pair, but like they're two completely different people.
Ugh, can't stop yawning. Let's see. What else did I write down? Somebody said something and I only wrote down this line and I don't remember the context. But somebody says the killing jar.
Oh, yeah, I remember that line, but I can't. What? When did they say that? That jumped out to me too because I was at first I thought it said killing joke and I was like, what? Does this make sense in context?
Yeah,
Um,
there's a couple of references to that book, and I'm like, did you need to do that?
yeah, you get Joker at the end, and he's kind of like drawn in the same way with the hat as he
And
is when
holding
he
the gun,
and holding the gun.
and
Yeah,
I was like, come on, come on.
yeah, that was. There's a little bit too much of that foreshadowing. I think the Killing Jar line is said by Killer Moth, if I remember correctly. I was about to call him Killer Croc. He's not in
Uh,
this story.
they do a good job making Killer Moth a fitting antagonist for Batgirl, and seeing how they both trying to prove themselves and get others to take them more seriously. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's an interesting parallel with them.
I think my
Uh,
problem with Killer Moth is he gets taken out. He's gets overshadowed by Firefly, who I think is a much better villain in this book. Maybe not thematically, just in
yeah.
general.
Well, I think in contrast, it just shows how much of a pathetic loser Killer Moth is, because um, Firefly is a psychopath, and this is honestly one of my favorite versions of Firefly. He's so creepy in this.
His origin is horrifying.
Yeah, that scene where he's introduced is just very disturbing. um, but you can see like he is cut out to be a villain because he's a total sociopath. And then you look at Moth in comparison, and the guy's really just trying to make ends meet, and he doesn't really have it in him, and he's like horrified by all the things that Firefly is doing. So
Yeah,
it's like he's just really not cut out to be a villain, although as much as he tries.
yeah, he really just wants to get paid.
Right.
There's that moment in the Firefly origin where after he does what he does, he's like, "Do you have the tape?" And it's like he
Yeah.
wants to rewatch it, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Dude, ugh."
He's seriously screwed up in this.
Yeah." And it took
um,
me a minute rereading it because I didn't remember him. I was like, "Who is this?" And then the fire happened, and I was like,
yeah.
"Oh, okay." Because other than
Yeah.
this, the only thing I've seen him in is the Arkham games.
Oh yeah. I think the only other big version I know is the Batman.
Oh, he is in that, isn't he?
He's in the Batman. Oh, and he's also in Gotham, but it's a girl Firefly, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay, the only one that I
Uh,
remember is this one in the Arkham games.
I think
Because
they're probably the two best versions.
I mean, your competition is Gotham.
Right.
Let's see. I really like. I really like the Batgirl suit, and I miss when it looked
Mhm.
like this. I don't like the modern Batgirl suit, that like purple one with the yellow bat. To
Yeah.
me, Batgirl is color scheme has always been black and yellow.
Yeah, I like that black and yellow uh, look
I was
to it.
so disappointed when the movie showed off their suit and it's that fucking Burnside one.
Yeah.
We get
Yeah,
away from
and
that.
I do wish that movie ended up coming out though. It's really awful what they did to it. Especially if it was taking cues from this story. I would have liked to have seen
Let's
more
be
Killer
honest,
Moth in
given
it though.
DC's track record, that was going to be god awful.
I guess, but it was the guys that made Miss Marvel, which got good reviews. So I don't know.
Ugh.
Anyway, uh,
Anyway,
what happens next? I don't remember.
next we get, just going based on my notes, next is the big Batcave scene, the first big Batcave scene,
Right, yeah.
where she meets Batman and Robin. And I like that because this is from Barbara's point of view. Batman kind of comes off as a psychopath, but then there's times where it kind of shifts POV almost, where it makes it seem more like really he's just putting down a girl that's way in over her head and like he's trying to get her out of it. How do you feel about how
Yeah,
Batman is used here?
I think he's pretty in character. Um, I I get, like we talked about earlier, I get that he wouldn't want some random person running around being another Bat character when he hasn't recruited them himself, and he's needs to make sure that they're okay. But I mean, this scene, not a lot of memorable stuff in this scene for me. It works.
It just works.
It just
16
works.
times the detail. Let's but one thing that is memorable about this scene, not a specific moment, but this will be a carry through for the rest of the book. And I think this scene is when the book kind of picks up for me. It will dip a little bit later, but we'll talk about it. Is Batgirl and Robin have really good chemistry from the get go. And there's like, oh, you want to see more of them together, like their interactions.
Yeah.
And that's he's surprisingly shines there, and it makes me wonder how he handles that dynamic in other books since he's written a shit ton of Batman stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of Bat Family stuff too.
I mean, that's
Um,
what I mean by Batman. So just
yeah,
general Bat
within
stuff.
Bats. Well, I
Keep
also
up, Noah.
obviously he also does a lot of Nightfall too. And I was just thinking of that.
Oh, Baggy's behind. Baggy said, "Hi, Baggy. I like how she isn't
Hey,
inspired by Batman in this iteration so much as she chose the symbol to get her dad." Yeah, we talked about that, but we don't. I don't know if that makes sense in the end game, but like I
yeah, I
appreciate
have
that it's
mixed
not
feelings
just
on it.
like, oh, I want to be like Batman, because Arkham Origins has a Barbara Gordon. I don't know if you remember this. That is more of a
Yeah,
like Batman fangirl
yeah, yeah. She's just
because she's
kind
gonna
of just
be
a Batman
Batgirl in a
supporter,
couple months.
right? Couple months. I don't know. I don't know. She's really young in that.
Okay, but keep in mind that game only takes place a couple years before Asylum. And
Yeah,
Asylum, she's already Oracle, so she has to become Batgirl within the next few months.
yeah. Well, I don't know that the timeline of those games doesn't make any sense.
And apparently, Dick was only Robin for like a month.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's got that dumb everything happened in 5 years thing that the New 52 had. Um, but anyway,
Where'd we leave off? Robin and Batgirl's dynamic. It was really good. I like that
yeah,
you're going to find out later that Batman is kind of putting him up to it. But Robin genuinely seems to want to help Batgirl.
yeah. He's the one that's like sending her gadgets, and he gives her the bike, two bikes. So she destroys both of them. Yeah, he's the one that like is really trying to help her out. I don't think just because like he obviously has a crush on her, but also like he sees the potential in her. Um,
Well, but I mean, he's also being ordered by Batman.
right, right.
Okay, sorry, it's 8 years, but still, that is an
Yeah,
absurdly short amount of time for all of that to have happened. But yeah, no, like he genuinely wants to help her, even though he is also doing it just because Batman wants her to realize that this life is dangerous. Um, I don't know, just like tell her dad if you don't want her to do
yeah.
it.
Well, I think part of him also just sees the potential in her, and if he tells Gordon, then he's not going to be able to do it.
See, I don't think he does at first. I think he legitimately is trying to show her that this life is dangerous and will get you killed.
I'd have to reread it. I don't know. On a first read, it kind of worked for me.
And it's the her finally stopping Firefly and Killer Moth at the end that makes him okay. I'll retest you, because that's the big thing in the
Right.
Batcave is he tests her and she fails.
Hmm.
Because I
And then she
if I
comes back at the
remember,
end and succeeds. Yeah.
yeah, she like uses lethal force.
Hmm.
Um, and obviously that's a big no no with this
Right.
Batman. Well, most Batman
With Batman. Yeah.
with the Batman. Um, then we kind of This book also gets confusing at times because I feel like it jumps. Like it'll jump forward and then sometimes it'll kind of jump back. Like it's trying to do that non-linear storytelling thing.
Yeah, it kind of does it selectively. It does it like within issues because I think like the Black Canary one opens on like the climax, and then you see like how they got there.
That's the big one I was thinking about. I was like,
Yeah,
what are we doing?
I was fine with it honestly.
Oh, I
My thing with it is just because it's weirdly inconsistent. Like some issues will do it and some won't.
Robert Wild, I like the Dick community that recognizes Batgirl as Barbara. Seriously, dude, you should have just come in for the review. And that she needs to keep her distance from Gordon when she's Batgirl. That's one thing that makes no sense in the DCAU. And BTAS, Dick and Barbara are dating and working together as Robin and Batgirl and don't recognize each other. I didn't know that. That doesn't make any sense.
Mm.
Anyway, no, I do like that they kind of instantly figure out, oh, it's Barbara Gordon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're not stupid. They can figure things out.
I mean, Batman is the world's greatest detective.
Yeah. Well, actually, they make a point of it too that Robin is the one that figures it out first, and I
Yeah.
think Alfred says something like sometimes the obvious can be can elude Master Bruce or whatever he
Well,
says.
and they kind of set it up too, because they have that flashback panel where she kind of meets the dynamic duo for the first time, and kind of speculates that Robin might have had a crush on her.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it works that Robin is the one to figure it out first.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I don't know that. I think this is where we're going to differ. I think, and maybe and to be fair, my experience based on this is reading this while I was at work. Work was slow, but there were times where I'd have to pause, which did make things feel like they were taking longer. But on this
yeah.
read, I was like, this team up with Canary and Batgirl should be exciting. Instead, it's horribly edited and really drags at some places.
Oh, you think it drags? I honestly, it kind of felt a little short to me.
Oh,
Um,
I don't
at
know.
least
At that
because I
point of the
think
book, I was like, can we get a move on? Like, can we?
well, because it opens in the middle of the action,
Yeah,
which I think is
don't do that.
you know, what that grabs your attention though. That's like writing 101, open in the middle of the action. Um,
Or
I
if
don't
you're
know.
gonna do that, I guess do a smoother transition because it took me like two panels to realize that we had like gone we're backwards. I was like, oh, we're doing another time skip. She's just working with Canary, and then we go backwards, and I was like, wait a minute, they've
I
already
don't know.
teamed up.
I wasn't really confused by that. I got what was going
And
on.
like I said,
'Cause I think
admittedly, some of this might have been painted by the fact that I was at work.
yeah, no, and that's fair. If I remember correctly, they do that before they do a kind of a non-linear thing before that point, or maybe that's the first time they do it. I don't know.
And it's the first time
Um,
that I noticed that specific form of nonlinearity because it does kind of jump back and forth between like current time and like flashbacks. But this is the first
yeah.
time that I can think of that I've seen them in that book like start in the middle of a story of an action sequence and then rewind to set up how we got to this particular
Well, actually,
position.
hold on. No, because the first issue does that. If you
Does it?
remember, yeah, the first scene of this book is um, the the fight at the ball with
Yeah, that's true.
and then you see how it happened.
That's true. You're fired for arguing with me, but that's true. No,
I'm fired for being right. God damn it!
no, you're just fired. I wrote Oracle line is a tad on the nose, but I don't remember what I was talking about. I'm sure there's some kind of line about being an Oracle.
Well, there's a lot of references to Oracle. The
Yeah,
whole like narration, and it kind of comes full circle at the end. It's
I was
like
like, stop
bookended
it.
by yeah, it's like bookended by talks of like oracles, and I'm just like, Okay, yeah, I know. I
Um,
know she becomes Oracle.
then we get Condiment King.
Yeah.
This
Robert
isn't
says
fair to
you're probably wondering how I got here.
this isn't fair to the book, but I'm so fucking tired of hearing about Condiment King.
Yeah, this was back when he wasn't as overused.
Yeah,
I don't mind Condiment King. I think he's a funny joke character, but you have to use him like a joke character, and I think this book does that. Because I think a lot of people make the mistake of assuming that Condiment King's a real villain when he was created as a joke.
yeah.
Um, but out of the three characters like that, Condiment King, Kite Man, and Killer Moth, I
Hell
actually
yeah.
think I think I think Killer Moth's actually the most interesting out of the three, and probably
I
my
mean,
favorite.
I didn't love Killer Moth in this, but out of those three, I'd rather read a book about him.
Yeah, I mean for Kite Man, really, I like War of Jokes and Riddles, but even then, like I
Robert
think
Wilde,
Killer
to be
Moth is a
fair, I think it's
more
a fine
interesting
idea to
character.
show why she would. But it's not showing why she went by code by Oracle. It's just there's a bunch of rambling about an Oracle named Cassandra.
No, so I'm kind of with Robert there. I think it would have been better if they had maybe one or two references to it. The problem is that it's all over the book.
Yeah. Plus, you get all those Killing Joke references. Like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, it's like we
I
get it.
know.
Yeah,
I know
it
where
doesn't
this is going.
it doesn't destroy the book for me, but every time that stuff comes up, I just roll my eyes.
Yeah. But by no means did it ruin the book.
Yeah.
Um, I liked that final fight with Moth and Firefly. I thought it was really well scripted. Um,
Oh yeah.
I like that. I like that dynamic. You kind of brought attention to it. Where Moth is kind of like, oh, we're kind of like this isn't really what I was looking for. Like this is more than I wanted. Firefly's like,
Right.
I'm gonna burn this whole fucking town down.
Yeah, and I think at that point it's a little unfortunate because Firefly kind of takes the more of the spotlight in the back half of the book, which is fine because he's well written in this book. But Moth is kind of thrown by the wayside. And at that point, I think it's clear that Moth is still in this just because he's afraid of Firefly, which anyone would be. Um, but yeah, no, I really like them together.
Yeah, for
Two
sure.
the two bug villains.
Let's see. I'm running out of notes, so we're getting to the end now.
We're heading towards the end, yeah.
We've been at it for about 45 minutes.
Yeah, which is fine.
Um,
This isn't as deep as Killing Joke.
okay, so literally the last thing I have to mention is at the end of the book, and Bag, I'll get to your comment in a second. At the end of the book, Robin has her meet him at O'Neill and Adams, which I thought was the best Easter egg in this whole book.
Yeah, and that's an Easter egg we do a lot in Batman stuff.
Bag Studios, I don't think those are references to her being Oracle as much as her discovering an advocate of Cassandra Cain in No Man's Land references that same story of an Oracle named Cassandra. I mean, maybe, but it doesn't change the
Perhaps,
fact that it's all over the place.
it is all over the place, and that's the problem. But
And it
I
has
have
to at
read
least be somewhat about her being Oracle because it keeps saying Oracle.
right. Well, and I think Oracle plays a big part in No Man's Land anyway, so it could be
We
related
will
to
find
that.
out eventually.
Well, yeah, we're gonna cover that at some point. So
That's going to be a big ass one because you got to do like Road to
Yeah.
No Man's Land and
yeah,
No
and
Man's Land.
we're already gonna be going through Nightfall, which is gonna take a long time. So
No Man's Land will be far, far in the future.
far future, yeah.
All right. Before we move into final thoughts, I do just want to announce next, 2 weeks from today, we will be doing Nightfall Volume 1. I think we're going to go ahead and make that officially our next book. No, it won't be in 2 weeks because in 2 weeks we'll do our commentary.
So it's not it technically it's not it's not volume 1, it's prelude to Nightfall.
Yeah.
I hate to be the actually, but
Yeah,
just so
he just
so,
actually'd me.
just so people know, we're gonna be covering like the 9 volume trades So we're gonna be starting with like all the prelude stuff and then go from there.
And I will pull up the issue order and put it in the comments of this will be re-uploaded with some stuff cut out, like that video game ramble that we had a minute ago. And I will post the issues that we are going to be covering in the comments of the re-upload, just to see how that video does.
Okay. It might be good to do like a community post if we have the
I don't
ability
have
to
that
do
on
that.
this channel yet.
Okay.
I would love to do that for when we have to do like single issues.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
I don't know how you unlock those.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Robert, I will get to your comments in just a second. It won't be in 2 weeks, sorry, because in 2 weeks we'll be doing another commentary since we go back and forth. So in a month from now, we will be doing Prelude to Nightfall in the 25th anniversary 9 volume trades, and I will post the issues in the comment section. Okay, let's catch up on chat. Robert Wild, because it's 426, as in LV 426. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so silly though.
That's silly.
Anyway.
One of my favorite little moments was when Barbara got the tan marks on her face from her mask after the Firefly fight.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
and that's the stuff I liked is when it's very Peter Parker-ish, right? Like she's having to balance this.
It is.
Newfound. That's what I wanted more from this book. And I think that's why I wasn't as in love with like the Black Canary and Batgirl team up. It's like, give me more of like her struggles with her dad and her personal life versus a superhero team up. Like, I get that Black Canary is there because she idolized her, but like, you don't need that. Give me more character stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And that's part of why it's so interesting looking at the rest of the Bat family compared to Batman is that they do have more of that like Peter Parker kind of thing going on where they're more normal people, so they're going to have more of those kind of struggles.
Bag Studios, there's a lot in NML, but it's also worth it. We will get there eventually. There's also a prose novel that I wouldn't mind taking a look at some point if we can even get our hands on it.
Oh, yeah.
I have the Nightfall prose novel here somewhere. Robert Wild. I also like the Blockbuster cameo. That's a Batman villain you don't see a lot. I thought I recognized that name, but I haven't read him in anything.
I think he might appear in Prelude to Nightfall, unless I'm thinking of a different big guy.
And then, no, you're thinking of Bane. I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
No, I'm not thinking of Bane. I also like the art in this book, Robert.
I love the art in this book, and I typically tend to prefer a more natural style, for lack of a better term. I don't like over stylized, not over stylized, because I like stylized things like the Killing Joke. Over cartoony, yeah. Especially Batman. Batman isn't something I see as overly cartoony.
That's fair. It's kind of Darwin Cookie a little bit to me. So
which is why I think I liked it, because I really liked Darwin Cook's work on Ego.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite artists for Batman, and just anything DC really.
Yeah. Bag Studios, yeah, I'm not a big fan of Black Canary here either, but to be fair, I didn't know much about it. And I love Black Canary. Her and Oliver Queen are one of the best like pairs in like duos in DC or in all of comics, really. We're gonna start a Green Arrow channel next. I don't know if you guys knew that, but no, I ain't got time for that.
I like Green Arrow.
I'm
not qualified to do a podcast on him.
So Robert or Noah, whatever the hell your name is.
Robert's not here.
You were just
I know you want Robert to be here, but that doesn't mean he's here.
Noah, do you have any final thoughts on Batgirl Year 1?
Final thoughts. I mean, like I said multiple times, it's not amazing, but it's solid. And I think we'll probably do like, would I recommend it or not? I'd say yeah. Not as strong of a recommendation as the other books we've covered, but if you like Barbara as Batgirl, it's definitely a must read. And if you like Killer Moth, it's a must read.
So let me ask you this real quick before I move into my final thoughts. Is this a weaker book because her motivation is just, well, I want it?
I'm not
Because
sure.
like you put her this is her origin, right? You put that
Yeah.
up against obviously like Batman. Batman has a drive. Robin has a
Yeah.
drive and like a personal stake in this war. This book makes her play it more like this just to cure boredom. So there's not really a stake
Uh,
in this for her until her dad gets kidnapped.
yeah, there isn't really that personal tragedy. Um, I guess her drive more is just to prove herself, right? It's more of just like
Yeah.
I've been judged and and mistreated in this world, so I want to prove that I'm
Fed up
actually
with this
capable.
world.
Yeah, I'm fed up with this world.
Let
Oh my
Tommy
god.
Wiseau play Batgirl.
Oh my god, if Tommy Wiseau played Batgirl, that would be the greatest thing.
Robert Wild, I
I
am
see
the
what
AI Bat computer version. Oh god.
I do see what you're saying though. There's not that tragedy to her character that's so integral to Dick and Bruce's motivation.
But also,
Yeah.
is that fair? Because Tim doesn't have that either, and everybody loves Tim.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I've never been that. This might be controversial. I'm not like a huge Tim Drake fan, but I also don't have that much like experience with him.
Well, I
I
feel
think
like the
he's.
only thing that he's really done that was good is like hard to find, which is the Dixon ongoing.
Oh, was that hard to find? Because
As
we
far
should
as I
review that
was
at some
told.
point.
No,
Okay.
I would love to cover that stuff because I assume Robin year one is Dick.
Yeah, it's Dick.
That
So,
bastard gets 2 year ones. What the fuck?
uh, no, but anyway, we should probably move on to your final thoughts.
My final thoughts are this book is okay. I think it needs to be about 3 issues shorter, make this a 6 issue mini. It needed to focus more on Barbara and her relationships and her like crime fighting versus trying to do all these different things at once. Um, I can't fault something for being ambitious, but I can fault something for not living up to that ambition. And unfortunately, I don't think this one quite does. But I would
Yeah,
still recommend it. It's pretty good, all right book.
it's K, just K.
It is K, just K. All right. So that is Batgirl Year One.
Do that.
But anyway, so 2 weeks from today, we will be doing another commentary. I believe we're going to finally do some Batman Beyond.
Yes.
Unless there's something coming up with an anniversary that we should pivot to. I will see.
Yeah, I don't know.
But the plan is for right now is some Batman Beyond. In fact, Noah, here's what I'm going to do. Leave us some Batman Beyond episode suggestions in either the chat or in the comments, and we will add them. We will add them to the list and see if they make the commentary.
Oh, that's a good idea because that takes the work off of me choosing all the episodes.
Yeah, because I don't know any of the episodes.
Yeah.
Robert.
There's
Oh,
at
and they're
least
just talking
one.
about Dark Victory. Anyway,
There's at least one I have in mind that we should do.
okay. Anyway, we are going to call it here.